Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. Today we have CatieOSaurus. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the podcast.
My name is Kate Osborne. I go by CatieOSaurus on all of the internets, where I am an ADHD educator, a mental health and disability advocate, and I play a weird amount of TTRPGs.
You do play a lot of TTRPGs. How many shows are you in right now?
It was actually really funny because my friend Jay just posted on their on their Twitter this beautiful infographic of like how many shows they had been in, and I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea how many I've done. I didn't count. I didn't think to count, and now I'm like, okay, 2023, here we go. We're gonna start keeping track. I know I can quantifiably say that right now I'm actively playing or scheduled to play in about 27 games for 2023 so far.
27 games. Okay.
Not all at once though. That'd be a lot.
Right. Those that many one shots already?
Yeah, well, a lot of them are like charity appearances, okay, and like stuff like that. So it's like a mix of like longer ones, and then also like people will ask me to like show up for like charity games.
Right. Yeah. That's fucking wild that people are called. It's January 4th at the time of this recording, and you're scheduled for 27 fucking games. Like, yeah, people are in your DMs already.
I think the farthest one out that I have is December of 2023. Like, oh my God. Like, well, especially for like some of like the like when you start talking about like conventions and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Then it's like, okay, well, if you want to, if they want me at that convention, then I have to like figure out like a flight and a thing and what is the thing, and it's very boring. And so there's a lot of like weird prep work that goes into a lot of like the like one shot life.
Yeah, just being a professional one-shotter, just table to table, character to character.
Spoilers, I just play the same character every single time. Just have a different name.
Yeah, I didn't see you do your one-shot at Gen Con, but you did one at Gen Con, correct?
I did. I was my first public GMing that I ever did. I did a charity one-shot of Dread, and it was a really cool experience. I was terrified. I was so scared that I was going to biff it, but it went really, really well. People had a lot of fun.
I find even I was thinking about this like last night because I GM like, I don't know, like
a lot,
right? But last night I started a new campaign and I still get a little nervous, and I'm just like, I've literally ran 400 professional games in 2022. People paid me to run 400 games. And then I like starting a new, and it's with a new group. I'd never played with any of these players before, which is unusual at this point because most of the time I at least get like one person that has been in my community joining. But like this one just filled up with just, random people. And I was just like, are they going to like it? Are they going to, have fun? Or do I have enough material? And I'm just like, I'm here over prepping as well. Like I've got like 5,000 words for like this introduction that's just going to be like the players fucking around for like 2 hours trying to introduce each other's characters.
But is that how you deal with the anxiety of it though?
Yeah, it is.
It's just by like over prepping. I like that though. That's a good like coping strategy, because then you're like, not only are you prepared, but it's like it helps with the anxiety of the whole thing. I like that.
I'm not sure that I want to like hire you to be my therapist, but like this has already been very therapeutic for me. So like maybe I could just tell you about all the things that I do that help me get through my day, and you can be like, yeah, actually that sounds really good, and
Okay. I approve of anything that helps you get through your day. That's what I approve of, because it's not silly if it makes your life easier.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
TM.
Yeah. When did you go full time with content creation?
Oh gosh, you told me you were going to ask this question, and I went, "Oh, I should remember," and then I forgot.
You can't tell my audience that these are prepared questions.
I know, right?
How dare you?
You over prepared to ease the anxiety. See, it works. This is amazing. I went full time, so I started making content about like I got on TikTok about 3 months before the pandemic hit. And then after, and I remember very specifically, it was Friday, March 13th was the day that my work shut down. And then I would say it was about 8 months of kind of like dipping, being like, is this a thing I want to do? Is this thing I like, what do I want to do? Is this like a thing? Like, I'm too old to be an influencer. Like, what are we doing? And so then about, I would say like 10 months in was when I was able to sort of make the step to like, I'm doing this now. This is going to be my job. And then all of last year was sort of building into something that is more sustainable and is more like long term. And learning how to do my taxes. Very hard. Nobody talks about the taxes part of content creation, but it's extremely difficult.
I'm getting nervous right now because I've never filed taxes as a freelancer. I just started last year. I started freelancing like in January of last year, but I opened up my business officially in April. So like, I guess that's like from April to December was all freelance income because my last day at my job, I think was like in March or February.
Can I offer you a piece of unsolicited advice that changed my
life? I would
life?
love to hear your advice, and so would my audience.
Find an accountant. Like, and it sounds like something for fancy people. It really does. Cause I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to afford this. Like I'm not fancy. I'm not wealthy. Like, I'm getting by, but I found an accountant who is actually part of my community. And so she's so generous with her time, and she lets me, like, she helps me out at like a reduced rate. But having just somebody who can help you with stuff like 1099s and W9s and like, is this tax write-offable and not, like, it will take so much anxiety off of your plate and help out so much, and especially with like freelancing stuff, because at some point I totaled it up. I actually did like dollars and cents stuff, because if you go on like TurboTax, and as like a freelancer you have to pay, it's like micro transactions for like every W9 that you file, 1099, or like whatever the thing is. But if you get an accountant, it's like, yeah, you might pay them $300-$400 to like do your taxes. You're going to pay the same amount on TurboTax for like, you know what I mean? And then you have a person that you can talk to and a person you can ask. I'm such an advocate of like really getting an accountant who like gets you and gets what you do. That is my unsolicited advice. That really helped me a lot.
I wholeheartedly believe in that advice, even though I have not applied it, because I personally love working with people, and that's very important to me to understanding processes and doing any sort of business. I much prefer to have that human interaction so that I can, instead of thinking about, did I do this right? Is this the right thing? And me trying to educate myself and become an expert, I would much rather build a relationship with someone, even if it's short term.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just stuff like that is, I feel like it's there's such like a lack of, I think, transparency when it comes to stuff like that. Like just like the detail stuff, because it's like, we can talk about content creation, but it's like, but taxes are really complicated. And sometimes it just helps to have like a guy you can call and be like, hey, Steve, can I write off my bras? And then Steve is like,
Really? You can't? Even as
technically I can.
Oh, okay.
But it's just, there's literally like a form. There's like an IRS like justification form of like, if they're like, we don't know about this one, you can be like, well, actually, and I find that to be delightful.
It's okay if like you're not comfortable with this question. Are you filing taxes much differently because you do OnlyFans?
It is, I don't like, honestly,
are you tax different? Like
I'm not taxed differently, but anything like that, but it's contractor work. So it's still 1099.
Yeah.
And so you really have to be cognizant, because I learned this the hard way, if we're talking about dollars and dungeons. I didn't know that you should save money for taxes, which, looking back, I was like, oh, that was kind of a thing I probably should have done. But I was really bad about it. And so I wound up owing a lot of money on my taxes, because I had done a poor job of planning ahead, because I didn't have an accountant. And so now I was like, okay, now I kind of know how to prepare for that and plan for that and like set money aside and like that kind of stuff. But that was the hardest part for me, was just realizing that it's like, when you are a contractor, you have to plan for your own taxes, because they're not going to take it out. Like, you have to plan ahead, booked in tax season.
Yeah, I only made 48,000 my first year.
Yeah, that's not bad though. That's respectable. That's how you say that word, respectable.
I'm not trying to flex on my podcast. From
okay.
April,
it's your podcast. You can. It's allowed.
From April to December, which is, I guess, 8 months. So I guess pretty good, but now I'm like, I haven't saved any money for taxes. So I know that in February and March, basically like almost all of my paycheck is probably going to go towards taxes.
Yeah.
Even I think I may catch a break because I have children. So maybe my children will finally save me from the depths of the IRS hell. But yeah, I think for you though, you've got so many, you're so diversified, and that is such an interesting conversation with people, especially when they're starting out. They have this weird idea, and I understand where it comes from, in that they think that they have to produce unique content for like 19 different platforms, when the reality is nobody can. And most successful content creators, even in your case, you create content for maybe 2 platforms at the most. And even that is like a lot. And then you just syndicate it out, like you push it out to different platforms. It starts in one place.
Yeah, I definitely started. So I'm just sort of like fascinated by the idea of content creation anyway, because it's kind of a made up job, it's just kind of like a thing that kind of happened, right? There's no
It
like
is.
content school that you go to, right? And so a lot of it is figuring it out for yourself, like what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And a lot of times it comes the experience of totally doing it wrong. Like, and that's what happened to me, is like, I did it wrong. I did a very bad job of managing my time and managing my mental health and my space and my peace. Because I was trying to do that. I was trying to make new content for TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and Twitch and YouTube. Like I was trying to make hot content on all of these different platforms, and I burned myself out. Like about a year in, I just realized how absolutely unsustainable it was to approach it from that mindset of everything has to be fresh, everything has to be new. And so I really had to take a step back. I really had to sit down and say, okay, what is important to me? What do I really care about doing? What do I really care about making? What is the content that I'm passionate about? And after I kind of like had that answer, I started approaching my content very differently. And actually, I love that I'm talking to you today, because I decided January 1st, 2023 would be like kind of like the day that I did like the big switch. And so I'm actually sort of in a very like transitory moment with my content, where I'm transitioning to more of that model, where I'm going to focus a lot more on YouTube. I'm going to focus a lot more on making long form content that I'm excited and passionate about, instead of just like grinding out, 10 shitty TikToks a day or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
Love a trans moment.
I know, right? We love it. We love it. And then using that to sort of like feed into like my TikTok and my Instagram. And I mean, my Instagram has always just been pictures of my dog anyway, but like, people expect video on there now. And I'm like, stick to pictures of cats. I liked that. I liked that part of Instagram.
Yeah, I can't help but notice in your background, we're going to come back to content creation in one moment. Is that a Mythic Grove box, Session Zero box right behind you?
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I do want to see it.
Ooh, Gabe Hicks sent this to me.
Ooh, Gabe Hicks, wow.
And then you open it,
Ooh.
and it's got all sorts. It has very nice. I'm gonna here for people listening on the podcast. Here's your ASMR moment. And then it's got all the cool stuff. It's got all the preview. It's got
the alt text for this podcast, like
the alt text.
Yeah.
Kate is opening a black box with a white tree with a squiggly on it for Session Zero, and these are the cards, and they're very cool. This is really good podcasting, but aren't they dope?
They're so cool. Yeah. I love it.
Kate is holding up 3 cards that have cool drawings on them. Good.
I'm super excited to break that open and start working with it. And I'm excited to see it in its physical form.
Super excited. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah. Isn't that wild that team of 3 people with organic marketing broke, I think it was $170,000 on Kickstarter?
Yeah. A girl can dream.
No, I mean, like, come on, you could do that.
I have a shameful secret. I don't know if you know this story. I kickstarted a board game way before I was a content creator, and it was wildly successful. And I went with a drop shipping company that literally stole all of my money and stole thousands of dollars from me. And to this day, every so often, I get angry emails from people who never got their game. But I was like, I couldn't afford to do anything. And so I sent everybody like a digital copy. I did everything that I could to make it right. But I literally literally lost, I think, about $15,000
Oh
from
my
this
God.
company that just was like, yeah, we'll totally like print and sell your games. But I'd never done it. I'd never designed a game. I didn't know anything about the process of it. I didn't know like what was reputable and like what wasn't. And so I got completely scammed. And there were like 150 copies of the game that I think are like actually in existence. But they never printed the rest of them. They never shipped them. They never sent them out or like anything. And so yeah, it's my shameful secret is I'm terrified of Kickstarter because I had such a horrible experience the first time.
Wow. I assume it was overseas so you can pursue legal action
Yeah,
or
and that was exactly it. It was
yeah.
overseas, and so they were just like sorry, and like I did all the stuff. I called the Better Business Bureau, and they were like sucks to suck. Like basically, they were like sorry about
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it was a really enlightening experience. I learned a
Right.
lot. And thankfully, most people were nice. Like most people were very kind and they were very understanding. But yeah, I personally paid for a print run of like a bunch of them, like out of my
Yeah.
pocket because I just wanted people to get the game and I felt so bad. But yeah, it was a really, really bad experience. And so now I have like weird Kickstarter trauma where I'm just like, never again. I never, ever,
Yeah.
ever again.
Yeah, I understand that. Being an investor, at least. So sorry about your circumstance. How long ago was that? How many years?
Oh God, it was probably like 5 years ago now, 5 or 6
Okay.
years. It was way before I was doing like content.
Gotcha. Okay.
In ADHD time, 5 years is an eternity.
Yeah, it totally is. Like, now that I'm like more aware and I don't, what's funny is I started to realize like how ADHD, like, because I was in the military for 13 years, right?
Oh
As soon as,
wow.
yeah, most people don't know because I mention it once in a while, but like most people are like, oh, 13, that's kind of a weird number because normally it's like you stay in for 20. No, too queer to stay in for that long. So I like had my like
That's
a
fair.
queer moment in like 9 years in or 10 years right after I had reenlisted the third time, and it was like, oh, this isn't working for me anymore.
Valid.
But yeah. But anyway, where was I going with that? Speaking of ADHD, when I don't have the military structure like provided to me, I have to like create that for myself in order to function now.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I really had those sort of things to my brain, and because I had gone my entire adult life like within that structure, really. And coming out of it, I think one of the things that I have been able to successfully leverage because I learned how to manage the schedules within the military has been like allowed me to become a really great, I think, project manager. And because I am used to scheduling everything for myself, it's not a problem to schedule everything for business, for other people, for a project that's coming up or anything like that. And I wanted to segue and get your thoughts on like the talk of the town, or at least the thing that I talk about all the time, is how how little people are paid essentially within TTRPG. And then so I had this really terrible idea where I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay people a lot of money. But in order to do that, I have to make a lot of money. So with that in mind, there are some people within like content creation, like once you break past a certain threshold, you make more than a living wage. But it's so hard to get past that. People that are in content creation, I think a lot of them are in a unique position to be investors. Because they have brand awareness, right? They have this brand awareness. They have a platform to engage with, or at least spearhead the marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition to that, if you have a platform, then you can build up a crowdfunding platform to support whatever the product is.
Yeah.
How much have you thought about pushing the either products or services that you are interested in creating moving forward in 2023, 2024?
Oh God. That's my answer. A lot. Because I'm in this like weird space. I mean, especially like with the like OGL and all the drama surrounding it and everything. I've really been, I mean, I already talked about kind of like I'm transitioning in my content anyway, but like I've really just been thinking about like what are the things that bring me joy? Like what are the things that I'm excited about? What are the things that I'm interested and passionate about? And I keep coming back to like I don't really like D&D. Like I like TTRPGs. I like playing TTRPGs. I like role playing. I like characters. I like stuff, but I'm like I don't really like it's not my favorite system. It's a system that I started with and it's the one that I'm comfortable with, but there is a difference between Oh man, that was going to sound so wise, and then I biffed it. But there's like a difference between comfort and content. And so one of the things that I've really been thinking about is I have this idea. I have this idea for a project, and it's a very large scale, very big, sort of like very involved project that would focus on collaborative storytelling and world building games. And I was really excited about it. And then like a week ago, like Brennan, Lee Mulligan, and Abria, and all of them were like, "Oh, also we're starting a podcast that is probably pretty much exactly the idea that I had." And I was like, "Damn it!" But I'm interested in exploring like those type of projects where it's like it's how do I say this? It's like, I don't want to say for me because that sounds selfish, but like just realizing that I do have the very unique opportunity to like angel invest in projects that make me excited. Does that kind of make any sense at all?
It does. I think, well, I mean, honestly, I'm in the same position. For me, it was like me having a conversation with someone, my mentor, and like just asking, like, how should I get into this? And they were just like, "You're good at project management, just run it yourself."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll fucking do it then, because nobody else is going to do it for me.
Right?
That's always the thing. It's like, you can't be the ideas guy and like not have money. You got to have money if you want to be the ideas guy. That's really what brings you to the table as the ideas guy. So, I mean,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and obviously I have like the skills of like writing, and that's what I've been, developing for 20 years or whatever. So I do have that coming to the table. But yeah, you have such a unique opportunity, I think, especially with you as a brand, and you have to do a lot of things to protect your brand. Yeah. And I've had, not to go down a dark segue, but like I've had these first experiences of people trying to leverage my brand without asking me, which has been awkward. And it's just like, really? Like, you didn't even like ask me for like an okay here? But yeah, I think that for you, if you want to do something, Catie, there's a lot of challenges, don't get me wrong, but like you for sure could do it.
It's interesting that you talk about that too, because I think that that's like such a weird thing is there's a shift in making content where you cease to be a person and you start being a commodity. And it happens kind of suddenly. Like I think people have different numbers in their head of like what the like commodity number is, but there comes a point where that happens. But then there's the opposite thing where you now have a platform and you have a responsibility to, I think, use that platform responsibly, especially in terms of like using your voice to like amplify and that kind of stuff. The story that I always tell, this is a true story. So one time I got really excited about this like product that this lady had designed. And I found it on Etsy. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And without thinking about it, because I was a new content creator and I still didn't know a lot about the world, I made a video. I was like, guys, look at this dope ass thing that I found on Etsy. And I sold out her entire store in an hour. Video went viral, blew up, sold out her store. I get an email from this lady and she's like, hey, it's not that I'm not grateful. You need to understand that you have fucked me. Like, you have completely fucked me in terms of like my shipping and how I'm going to get these products to people. And now I have to like completely reorder, which is a massive, like, and she outlined like the real repercussions of that video that I had made. And I still think about that. I still think about that like when I wear clothes, like is a thing. Like there's like Twitter accounts that like will tell people like what brands I'm wearing. And it's scary and it's big. And so when we talk about, having a brand and protecting your brands, also some of it too is being cognizant of the responsibility of like, if I wear a sweater, people will buy that sweater. Is the person who made this sweater ethical? Are they a good person? Are they, like a transphobic piece of shit or whatever, And so it's like, there's so much, I think, social and ethical responsibility that we have as creators to really think about that and really think about like the things that we promote and how we like put our sort of voices into the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I remember one of my earlier lessons in 2022 that I remember I was having that conversation with my mentor, and she was like, when people like just email me and like ask me to boost stuff, I'm just like, no, I don't know that person. I don't know, what the product is. I don't have the time to look into it. I don't have the time to vet this and push it on my platform. And I think about that whenever I have these conversations right now with a lot of the people in the Pro GM community. When I say that I like something, people will try it out. And I found that out like firsthand. Like people will go and they will buy a product. And that's why, like, for instance, like now I'm a Describe ambassador. You should just subscribe to Describe for 10% off. Use coupon code Friday. But I believe in their product. I believe in their company, and they're an ethical company. And we're working with them on the Vineyard book itself. We're going to have Describe material in there and vice versa. We're going to have Vineyard material on Describe.com. And that is something that I actually had to go into and figure out if I wanted to vet and like actually support, and something that I believed in. Was it up to the quality that I wanted for my product? Was it up to the quality for my brand? Just like I won't just randomly advertise for any GM that comes through. And I think maybe I'll have a nice conversation with them. Maybe I'll think that they're a great person, but I'm not going to just advertise for anyone, for the same reason that in my Discord server, now that my Discord is growing quite a bit, I don't advertise anyone but the one artist that I try to support. So it's important to me that I'm supporting the people that I know, trust, and like, and want to work with.
I mean, I think one of the hardest parts about being a content creator, you have to learn how to say no in a way that is kind and compassionate and, thoughtful. But like, I get easily 150 emails a week from people saying, can you promote my Kickstarter? Can you sell my thing? Can you be in my thing or whatever? And I'm like, that's like less than a lot of people I know,
Holy shit.
And and so it's like, and it sucks too, because it's like everybody, I care a lot about people. Like I really like people, and I really just believe in sort of like the community, but it's like, it's hard when everybody is asking you for something, and it's like, I don't have that space. And there's been a couple of times where frankly, like I got burnt, like I got like really burned in terms of like, I didn't do my due diligence, or, I thought something would be okay and then it like wasn't, and like, like that kind of stuff. And so like you learn and you move on and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot more no's happen that I was surprised about that. But I think it just comes down to that sort of commodification, that people really see you not as a person. They see you as like a number. They see you as 2 million, not like a Kate. They see you as 2 million. And frustrating sometimes, because I hate saying no, but you have to, at a certain point. I don't know where I was going with that.
We're in the same
good.
We're on the same
like
path.
ADHD, this like weird, like commensurate anecdotal communication. I love it.
Yeah. No one will understand what the podcast was about when we get to the end, but
we like, they chatted. It was good. It was fine. Feelings were had. It was great.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been kind of interesting in the last, because I didn't start taking a social platform like seriously and or like really learn it. And for me, that was Twitter, unfortunately. Just fucking, of course, I fucking learned Twitter right before it starts to like explode.
Yeah.
But I got good at Twitter over the summer, and of course, like my number one tweet of all time. So here's the funny thing, and this is something I want to talk to you about, like the how the negativity feeds the algorithm. So my number one tweet is like, I made thousands of dollars running Curse of Strahd this year, and here's how, and here's why. And then my number two tweet is when I posted December 28th, is just a clip of me like finding someone in Discord that had like a racist rant in Start Playing Games Discord. 2,200 likes, and I'm just like, why do I even make content at this point? Why don't I just go find a bunch of racists talking about D&D and I'll just grow my platform that way?
That's fair.
No, it's okay.
No, it's good. I don't know. I'm a content creator and I'm terrible at content. So I just kind of like I just feel like I'm just constantly like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just be like, I wonder if this will be a hit tweet. They never are, but they please me, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's frustrating for me because I'm like, sometimes I spend like 2 fucking hours on a thread, and I'm like, this is a fucking banger. Like, this is great. People are going to love it. And then it's like not a good performing tweet. And I'm just like, there's so much in there. And then I just say like, and then it's funny, like one of my biggest actually tweets is like DM tip, poop before the game. That's it.
it.
Like,
No, it's like I feel like it's the rule of content creation that the more time that you spend on any type of content is disproportionate to the like amount of like views that it'll get. Like it's just like the rule. Like if I spend like 5 hours making like a nuanced and well scripted and well shot TikTok, it'll get like, 50,000 views. I'll be like, okay, cool. And then I pick up my phone, go butts, 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 butts. It'll get 10 million views, and I'm like, I hate my life. I've done that. I've literally done that just as a test. I literally did that. I made like this. I was so mad because I had made this really good video and I was like super excited about it. I was like, oh, this video is hit bid. Here we go. And it did like nothing. And I literally just picked up my phone and was like, butts. And it got like twice the views. And I was like, God damn it.
oh, sad.
Anyway.
Sad. So sad. This actually allows us to segue really easily into what are your challenges besides the negativity parts of sharing and pleasing the mass audience. What are your challenges as a full-time freelancer besides taxes? I suppose we've already covered that.
Yeah, taxes are my nemesis. I think a lot of it has to do with my sort of personality type and how and neurodivergency and how it sort of meshes with content creation, because I am a perfectionist. I am a burnt out gifted kid. I've literally built half my platform on being a burnt out gifted kid. Like I got jokes about that for days. But I really for me, this is our honest podcast moment. Like I really regret how I built my platform. I don't regret building it because it's changed my life and it has been the best thing that I've ever done. And it is like an honor and a privilege to get to educate and advocate on my own terms and represent my community. And that is incredible. But I did it at the absolute expense of my physical and my mental health and my relationships. And because I just kept working, I just worked and I 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 still struggle. And like the other day, like this is it's funny, but it's dark. But it's going to the grocery store and I left my phone at home, and my husband was like, wait, really? You're going to leave your phone? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, are you sure you're going to be okay? And I was like, yeah, fine. But I realized that like I have been so just constantly working, constantly grinding, constantly trying to do more, that I became a person that I didn't like. I didn't like who I was for a really big part of 2022. And so I really have to sit with this is so dark. I'm so sorry. I didn't think this was going to be this vulnerable. But
this is exactly what I want to talk about.
I really had to sit with the shitty person that I became. I became a really shitty partner and a really shitty friend. And I was not emotionally available to the people that I should have been because I was worried about my content. I wouldn't go places and do stuff because like I had to play D&D for free for, 4 people on a Twitch stream because they asked. So I had to say yes, and it was actually, it's funny, this is a name drop, but it's a meaningful name drop. Is Travis McElroy looked at me one day and he was like, you have to learn how to say no. There's going to be another opportunity. There's going to be another chance for you to do the thing. And when you say yes to everything because you are living in fear of that being your last opportunity to say yes, you are selling yourself short on so many other like just life opportunities. Like you have to learn how to live your life. And I was like, holy shit, that's really good advice. Also, holy shit, I'm talking to Travis McElroy. This is a weird day. But that really, like that advice was really pivotal, and it came from somebody that I really respect and looked up to in the community. And so that was like a big sort of turning point where I looked and I was like, okay, I have to figure something out. And so I'm still in the process of it. Like it's and I want to be very clear, I'm not perfect. Like, I still have a lot of days where I do way more than I should. And but I'm learning to sort of like step out of that and say, okay, how do we do this sustainably? How do we do this? I don't want to say safely because that sounds pretentious, but in support of my own physical and mental well-being, especially as a disabled content creator. And that has been, I think that's been the hardest.
That makes sense.
End of answer.
Yeah,
sometimes I just stop talking. Like, I gotta clearly state the end. Yeah,
no, it's fine. Wow. I relate to that so fucking hard. For a long time. Well, for me, I started in January, like doing freelancing because I was like, when I got out of the military, I was like, I'm going to do just any job because I just need a job. of course, it doesn't pay enough. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what would I like to do? I'm not going to compromise on what I would like to do. So I started getting into like content creation and streaming and like performing. And then like I was trying to get into writing and then also pro DMing. So when I got into that and I started more seriously in January, and then I scaled up to the breaking point where I was making just as much as I was at my job, pro DMing on the weekends, I was like, you know what? I could do the smart thing right now, and I could just wait 3 more months and then go full time after I've saved up money. But no, I'm a stupid bitch. And I quit my job immediately. And I was like, fuck this job. And I scaled up really quickly. I do not recommend that for anyone. I was thankfully in a position to where I did not like go hungry or lose, my job, or like, things went well on SPG for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't go well for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So for me, and this is, of course, advice that B-Dave gives. I'm just basically this is a B-Dave fan club on this podcast. But you need to have that savings and like that safety net so that you don't overwork in order to compensate for the things that are going to make you like make it, or the things that are going to make sure that you have that safety net.
Absolutely.
Yeah, content creation is and freelancing, very similar vibe, I think. And for me, baby content creator, like for me, it's not as big a deal because I don't like that's my side gig, rather than my full time right now. So for me, it's not as big a deal if a post doesn't do well, because my full time job is still like running the games. If people are still in my games, then I'm good. Yeah. All that to say, I wish I had scaled up a little slower, because I spent, I think it was all of July, August, September just being burned the fuck out. Like I was just burned out. And thankfully I had received a lot of opportunities from people like Chelsea, who says hi, by the way, Katie. Chelsea, who brought me in to do some work for Kobo Press, and I was on a panel at Gen Con. And I think it was right about the time that I was starting to, some of my threads were starting to get a lot of attention on Twitter, and people started to know who I was. Like people at Gen Con were like, hey, you're Friday from Twitter. And I was just like, this is weird, but yes, I am. I am Friday from Twitter.
Okay, can I tell you a silly story about that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So some people know this, some people don't, but for context, I have 2 master's degrees in Shakespeare, because in this economy, why not? So I went to grad school, and I went to like fairly serious Shakespeare acting thing, and you crying on the floor at 8 o'clock in the morning type shit. And one of my professors called me when she found out like all of this had happened and stuff, because like I was a stage manager more than, that's why I love a project manager, because I was a stage manager, which is like a mini project manager. And so my background is in stage management, but I would like act and like whatever. And so she called me and she's like, I gotta know, like what's it like what is it like what's it like? And I said, very honestly, I was like, the weird thing about theater school, because I went to theater I was a theater major in college, and then I went to grad school for theater, is like at no point in theater training do they have the conversation about like how to sign an autograph, or like how to meet a fan, or like what happens when you're at fucking Target and somebody comes up to you and they go, are you CatieOSaurus? They don't prepare you for that part. Like they'll Stanislavski you until the cows come home, which is not a phrase I've ever said, but here we are. But there's no, and here's what to do if you actually get famous. Like there's no class on that. And so like a lot of that part of it, that is the part that I'm the most uncomfortable with, because I'm very public. And again, I think like if I could do it all over again, I would be a lot more private about my private life in a lot of ways, but here we are. Into the wind it goes. But it's so surreal to be at a place like Gen Con or whatever and have 80 people line up to meet me. Like meet me. Like who am I? Like what have I done to earn from people, And so a big part of like the transition to content creation as a job also weirdly I think has to become not only like sort of like just like learning how to manage it despite your own like uncomfortableness, but also really working on your own imposter syndrome and saying like, no, like, yeah, 100 people just showed up to listen to me because I have something to say, and I am worthy, and I do deserve a seat at this table, and I do deserve to be here. I'm still working on that part. but it's weird when people show up still. I'm always like pleasantly surprised that people come to my panels and I'm like, oh wow, people are here. I take a picture every time of the crowd because I'm a nerd. I'm always like, oh shit, people came, look guys.
That's
So
part,
embarrassing.
honestly, that's why you're so endearing, in my opinion, is that
because I'm
not to
socially awkward. Nailed it.
not to infantilize you. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. I don't know. Well, it is now. Fuck it.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's what makes you so endearing, honestly. A large part of it for me, because I'm still in the baby stages, in my opinion, and I only see like a little bit of it for my side, but it's stuff like having a dedicated community, and for me, that makes it kind of weird because I remember just being a human being on the internet and like interacting with different communities, and then that content creator or whatever would like do something, and then people respond to it, and then it's kind of weird to be that person now. Yeah, it's weird. And I like, for instance, I like posted on the Pro GM forum. I was like, hey, it was on New Year's Eve, and I was like, hey, in 15 minutes, I'm going to do a voice chat hangout for New Year's Eve. And like 25 people showed up, and I'm just like, what the fuck? What do you, like, they just got drunk with me in Discord because, we were all losers hanging out on the internet on New Year's Eve, just talking about Pro GM stuff. And I'm like, this is not what I expected my life to be. Here we are. This is weird. That's a good life. I mean, I'm not complaining. I love it.
Right.
Yeah. I love interacting with people that are getting started with their business and they're moving forward. I don't always have the opportunity to respond to some people. Like, for instance, like open trench coat here, like for me to, if you send me a DM asking me for specific consulting advice about like your campaign that you're going to run, I will not respond to that DM because I'm just like, I don't have like, there's a bunch of starting material that I put on my platform. If you just look at my platform, or you just like look at my YouTube, or like look at anything that I've ever put out there, like if you're just getting started, like that stuff's out there. Like don't, like I can't, I still read like your 300 word multi-paragraph like dissertation about like your first game, but like I just don't have the time, because if I responded to every one of those, like I would have no time for anything else.
Oh yeah, like I used to do that. I used to respond to every single DM that I got. I used to read every single comment that I got. And it got to the point where I was literally working like 14-15 hour days just to like respond to because I felt like I owed it to people. I was like, oh my god, like they're taking the time to whatever. And at some point again, it was like that sustainability of like, if I keep doing this, like there's no way that I can make it sustainable. But it's also, I don't know, this is maybe a spicy hot take, but I think one of the things that I don't want to say get resentful about, but I get frustrated with, is that because like, you can go on TikTok or you can go on Twitter and you can see Friday's tweets for free. You can see Kate's TikToks for free or whatever, right? There becomes this sort of like weird expectation.
Expectation.
Like,
yeah.
It's like, I'll get DMs from people that just say, make a video about ADHD and stress, or make a video about, and I'm like, sure, if you would like to pay me, if you would like to sponsor that video, I would be delighted to do that for you, and especially because I'm a sex educator, and that's the bulk of like sort of like what I really talk about online, is sex and relationships. I get so many deeply personal and frankly inappropriate first messages from people, or like, hey, does this spot look weird? I'm like, oh my god, like that kind of thing. And I get really frustrated by that, because it's like, this is my job. Like, this is what I do. And I know that like a lot of my content is consumable for free, but if you want me to consult, it would be okay if you paid me. If you really want that custom video, I would be happy to make it for you. But like, I can't respond to every single demand for content or demand for free consultation or relationship advice or whatever. But like, yet I still feel guilty about it. Like, I still feel bad that I can't, because I'm like, oh, well, they trust me with the question, and I should be able to. But at some point, like, you really have to like start leaning into the value of that, like, no, and just realize like, it's just, you're not a bad person if you don't respond to every DM. You're not a bad person if you don't acknowledge every single comment. Like, that is not the expectation. And I think that's important for people to hear, is you're not a bad person if you don't. At some point it happens. It just does. It's just part of it. It's part of the thing.
Yeah, I had this conversation because I was just transitioning to where it was too much work for me to help everyone individually in the last few months because of the growth of my platform. Yeah. And people would come come into the Pro GM server and ping me, and I would get 15 to 20 pings a day, like from people like, can you look at my advertisement? Can you give me advice about this campaign? Can you? And then I was like, okay, well, I can't do that anymore. Here's my consulting fee. And I started at the average rate for marketing consulting at $100 an hour. I had too many people sign up. So I'm like, okay, this is too cheap.
Yes.
Like, and then now I'm at $175 an hour. And now I don't take clients that have not been running their Pro GM business for 3 or 4 months, because like people that are enthusiastic and really want some help consulting or whatever, I don't actually give them the value that they're paying for, when they can just look at my free content and I'm like, get what you need and do the work. 90% of these businesses genuinely just need to fucking do the work and like experiment and see what works, and then A/B test stuff. You know what I mean? Like the normal shit that you do, right?
I was just laughing because the only pings that I get on Discord are from people who are like, I have a question about your OnlyFans. I'm like, then ask on OnlyFans, man. What are you doing? Come on. Discord, get out of here. Come on.
All right, so your Discord DMs are open then, right?
Yeah, I don't tell. Well, yeah, I mean they are. I don't usually tell people that, but it's fine. Okay, hit me up on Discord. I don't know. Discord is weird. I'm terrible at it. I'm still terrible, and I'm literally looking at actually I'm gonna count right now. I have 4, 1, 1, 1, 3.
You're using folders, right?
Yeah, but like right now I have at least visibly 89 pings is my current math in all the different like servers and stuff that I'm in.
You don't turn off notifications?
I mean I do. I turn off notifications, but like the little red thing pops up.
Oh yeah.
But then I also have like I'm a serial not responder to friend requests, and it's not because I don't want to be their friend. It's just because I forget to like check. So like on Facebook I have like 1,000 friend requests. I'm just like, I'll get to it. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm not going to go through and vet all 1,000 of these people.
Yeah,
but yeah, I changed my name in the SPG server to "Don't ping me, please." Like that's, and it's so weird, but like honestly I had to do it because like as you know, as someone who gets distracted, like as soon as I see that ping, I'm just like, okay, here's a question that applies to me,
right? Or like, okay, I got to deal with this, and then it's but it's like I'm in, like I said earlier, like I'm in at planning stages for at least 20 some games right now, and so it's like people ask about character sheets or whatever, but it's like I can't do it. If I look at that, if I go to the one, that game could be in March, but that's the one that I saw the ping first, and now I'm spending all my time and all my energy like on that. So it's like I have to like limit how I do it. People get so frustrated. They're like, I pinged you, and I was like, I check my Discord once a day, fam. Like that is all I can do.
That's the best I can do. Yeah. That's what that's what it became like for my business as well. When I'm dealing with, I have like between like 50 to 70 players at any given point. I think it'll be a little bit more here moving forward because I'm averaging like 13 or 14 games here for a short while. That's not sustainable, so I'm only doing it for like this initial quarter. But I only work on the game that I'm running on the day that I run it, because I cannot manage to like do additional work 3 days prior to the game and not get distracted from what I need to do today.
That's rad. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, like for the same thing with like shows and stuff, whenever I appear on shows, in the morning when I'm like looking at my schedule book of like what to do, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this show today. Let me make sure I have everything ready for that show. And then I go through and I do all that, and then I profusely apologize to whoever's running the show. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a fucking wreck, but here I am.
I got asked one time in an interview, they're like, so how long ahead of time do you start preparing for your like one-shot appearances? And I was like, I lied. I just lied. I was like, oh, I put a lot of, at least a couple of weeks. I was like, I build that shit the day of, fam. Like, it's like fine. Also, sometimes when I'm bored, I'll just like build a character, and so then that way, if it's like, oh shit, like that's coming up tomorrow, then I can just like pull from like the collection of like random characters I've put together. But it's just so funny. I was like, I don't have the brain space for it, which maybe makes it terrible. But I was just like,
no, it's just realistic, because like a lot of people who just don't play in like those stages all the time, like. Obviously, if this is the only game you're playing in the month, like, okay, that's your one character that you're focused on or whatever, and this is like, you're going to really enjoy this one shot. Not that you aren't going to, but like, you're also really looking forward to it, and you don't have a bunch of stuff in front of you in that realm, but you do have to manage like when you spend time on stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's also just like, and this is more of like a creatory conversation, but also the difference between playing in a game with your friends and playing publicly, like the general public amusement, right? It's like I get hate mail. I've gotten hate mail from people who have like watched, streams, and they were like pissed that I didn't like use my bonus action, or like forgot that I had a spell, or like what, like I'll get like angry fucking emails from people. And so like there's also that component to it of like, it's not just putting together a character, it's, is this character, are the choices that I'm making, are they entertaining, are they fun, are they contributing to like the experience of the people watching the game? Because the real difference between like D&D at a table and D&D in actual play is that you're still thinking about the audience. You have to think about the audience. And so like it's a very different way of playing TTRPGs. And people get mad when I say that. People get really upset. Like it's it's like fake or whatever. I'm like, no, it's not fake. But you have to think about it. You're like, what is the most entertaining thing? What is the most interesting thing? How is this going to move the story along? It's a different way of thinking, and it's a different way but because that is my job, like my job is literally publicly performing, publicly playing these games, there is a lot of external pressure and a lot of external sort of like judgment that comes with this job of people just being like, you're an idiot because your barbarian didn't go into a rage. And I'm like, yeah, I forgot that I could do that. Sorry. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm gonna go on record and say, if you send CatieOSaurus hate mail for D&D mechanics, fuck you.
I mean, it happens at least 10 hate mails a week at this point. I'm averaging about 10 hate mails. Most of the time they call me a stupid dumb whore. People like to call me a whore because I have an OnlyFans. They like that one. And they really, and also that I'm a shill for big pharma because I talk about ADHD, and so clearly I'm a shill. And I'm like, I don't talk about medication. I literally have like, I've made one video that was like, hey, make sure that you're informed about it. But I chose on purpose the very beginning, I said, I'm never going to talk about medication, and I'm never going to talk about like the right, quote unquote, right type of therapy for ADHD, because it is a deeply personal decision. It's not my business, and I'm not a doctor. And I still get hate mail all the time. Like, you're lying, you're faking, depression isn't real, you just need to try harder. People are weird, man.
Yeah, who spends their time to like advocate or against your fake illness? I don't understand. Like, what the fuck?
A weird amount of people. Like, it's weird. That was another thing about content creation that I was not prepared for. It's just like the scrutiny of people just decide, like, or like I sponsor codes. So I have a glasses sponsor because I wear glasses. And so really long time ago, one of the first things I did, like as a joke, as a complete joke, Zlul, we're going to troll Zlul, is like a glasses manufacturer, into sponsoring me. And it worked. The video went viral. Everybody tagged Zlul. They sent me an email. They were like, that was so funny. We would love to work with you, whatever. And so I got a discount code. It was 10% off if you use code CatieO. I got a fucking manifesto from this one guy who was like, how dare you? You're a fake and a liar, and it's all been for the profit. And I was like, bruh, it is 10% off your glasses order at Zlul.com, man. Like, this is not it. But people will get mad. People will get mad about like taking sponsorships. People will get mad at you for like promoting things. People will get mad at you for trying to make a living while also insisting that they consume your content for free. Like, they're not going to sign up for your Patreon, but they will send you hate mail about taking a glasses sponsorship. And so that's like one of the big lessons that I had to learn too, is like, there are always going to be people who just wake up in the morning looking for a reason to be mad and looking for a reason to be angry. And you have to, like, I don't want to say rise above, because honestly, like, I'm not above making snarky comments because fuck those people. But like, I think you have to really, like, in the job of being a content creator, you really have to learn how to navigate, like, what is actual valid criticism? What is, people like making sure that you're being held accountable, but then also like, what is people getting mad at you for getting a glasses sponsorship because you're a sellout? Like, you were faking your mental illness the whole time so you could get a glasses sponsorship. And I was like, yep, that's what I did.
Amazing.
Caught me.
Amazing. That was the Grandmaster plan. That was the evil mustache twirling plan.
Faking ADHD on the internet so I could get a glasses sponsorship for 10% off. My master plan worked. Yeah,
and genuinely, like, honestly, like with me and my like Describe sponsorship, I work with them because also we're working with the vineyard and I believe in the product. Do you think I get like a ton of money for that? No, but you save a lot of money if you use my code, so I'd like to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
But
it's like you're
anyway,
welcome for cheap glasses.
yeah. But yeah, I think dang, that's wild.
Yeah. Expecting the hate mail was one that I was not expecting. Like I was like, oh, it happens to people, but it's not going to happen to me. And then it's the first like 4 or 5 times it's like scary and it's weird and it's upsetting. But like now I honestly like I just feel bad. I just feel bad for people. It's like how sad and lonely and angry and upset are you that you lack such a support system that you have to email some random person with ADHD on the internet to get mad at them. Like that's and maybe that's an overly compassionate take, but I just honestly I just hurt for those people. Like I just feel bad every time it happens, and I'm like, I'm sorry that you're hurting, like I'm sorry you're hurting because that must suck for you.
Yeah, I mostly ignore or don't interact with people who are like against being paid to GM, who are against pro GMing altogether, because that's a waste of time. But it's been interesting that since my platform has been growing and like my influence has been growing basically, to interact with pro GMs who have been doing it for a while, and they get really mad that my advice is taken seriously, and like I give them advice sometimes when they ask for it, and they get offended at the advice that I give them for their business because they are so married to the way that they used to do business. And they're usually coming for advice like, how can I jumpstart this again? Because the pro GMing scene has changed a lot in 2022. And I remember being early on in that scene as far as for Start Playing and interacting with that community. Everybody was like, cards close to the chest. This is a red ocean. All these sharks are competing for these 10 fucking players or whatever. And I was like, that's dumb as fuck. Like, there's so many players out there that like maybe you just need to advertise better. So me getting to people to advertise and like do that smartly, that's
That's good. It's a word now.
that's a word. That's a word now. Yeah. Do their advertising in an intelligent way that like actually follows the fundamentals of like basic copywriting. Has drastically changed the scene on Start Playing. So now if you don't use good copywriting, your games don't fill. And people are mad about that. It used to be you just threw up a game and you could just have whatever bullshit on there, like, hey, we're playing D&D, and that game would fill. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I have this like weird opinion. I don't know if it's an opinion. Maybe it's a rant. I'm not sure.
Go for it.
Are rants all inherently opinions? I don't know.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I get asked a lot is because I talk about TTRPGs and I play TTRPGs, but I'm not like a professional GM by like any stretch of the imagination. But people always ask me, they're like, well, aren't you worried? Because when I first started out, Jessica McCabe, who by the way, like has become a really good friend of mine, but she's a really, really talented, really popular ADHD creator on YouTube. And she does the How to ADHD. That's her channel. And I remember people were like, well, like, are you gonna go to YouTube? And I was like, yeah, maybe. And they're like, well, Jessica McCabe, how to ADHD? Like she's on YouTube. And I was like, cool, but I was scared. I was worried to go to YouTube because I felt like, well, that's her space. Like that's her thing. That's her, like whatever. But then I realized like her experience is completely different than mine. She was diagnosed young. She has this like very different experience with ADHD than I do. And then that question kept coming up of like, well, this person is making content about ADHD and this person is making content. Aren't you worried? Aren't you mad? Aren't you upset? Aren't you jealous? And I was like, no, because and I feel like it's a really interesting parallel to something like Start Playing or like GMing, because we all have our different styles. We all have different things that we bring to the table. We all have different skills. We all have different things that we struggle with and whatever. But I feel like it's not really so much of that idea of like a red ocean as it is like, no, like the people who want to play with you, the people who are going to respond to your content are going to find you as long as you're doing stuff like basic copywriting. But it's not about like, oh, I have to take up all this space so nobody else can sit at this area of the table. It's like, no, the table is infinite. You just start talking, like, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's always on my mind.
We're on the same page. No, the difference in your mindset as a creator or as a business owner in a red ocean and a blue ocean, the internet is so infinite, and you always have the opportunity to grow in either your business or your platform or whatever it might be. And most of the reason why I created a platform on these social media accounts is because I'm not going to say I was too big to fail. That's too much of a joke, but I was too big for the start playing games Discord anymore. I was like, I couldn't handle all of those pings anymore. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm putting all of my shit on the internet for you to consume without me having to be there right there with you. And I
Yeah.
initially, when I was building my platform, it was like in the baby stage where I was teaching people in these workshops, and I would have like 5 to 12 GMs come in and be like, hey, let me look at your ad. Let me fix that for you. Let me, give you some advice. And I did that for months before I started to really grow on these social platforms, because I took all of that information, all of that knowledge and that experience, and I just pushed it onto these social platforms. And that's what people are seeing now. But it started really with like getting better at what I'm actually doing and what value that I bring to the community itself.
Yeah.
And that's just a natural progression to where eventually like you're going to leave this small pond of a Discord server and you're going to enter the big ocean. You're going to see the big apple, and yeah.
And it also turns out most of the time, like what I found too, people who I to just kick the metaphor to death, but people who I considered, like huge fishes who would never ever talk to a little guppy goldfish like me, were thrilled. We're fucking excited to be like, yeah, let's talk about content, or like, and they've become friends and they've become mentors and stuff. And it was like, I'm still scared to email Brennan Lee Mulligan. One of these days I'm going to work up the courage. But it's like, like the people that I really look up to in the community, like they're all just people, it turns out, And so now it's like, it's amazing because like, I'll go to conventions or whatever and I'll be on these panels with people that I've looked up to for years before I was even making content about TTRPGs. And it's just so nice because it's like, yeah, the ocean is big. We're also kind of like finding all our little fishies that are friends together, and that it makes me really happy.
Yeah, it's definitely a small subset of like, it's like a club, right? It's essentially like a club. Like all of the game designers and the writers at conventions, they talk to each other because they work in the same industry, and like same thing for content creators. So it's definitely a unique shared experience that is kind of weird to think about for me. And I'm always surprised, like when I email people or I message people and they like within however long, or if they respond at all, that they're interested in working with me. And I was kind of blown away about the Vineyard as well. Like I sent out all these emails and I'm like, 90% of these people aren't going to respond. That's how I ended up with the 20-person team, because all of them said yes. And I'm just like, fuck, no.
Like I have that from the opposite standpoint, where I'll get an email from somebody like apologizing for asking me like, I know you're going to say no. And I'm like, okay, first off, I'm not. But they'll be like surprised that I say yes. And like I've heard from so many people that they were like, oh, well, I didn't ask you for this thing because I thought that you wouldn't be interested, or like you're so busy, clearly you're so famous. I'm like, first off, I'm not. But like, and so it's like, ask, always make the ask, because you never know. And even if you're like a really small creator, if you are playing a game that I'm excited about, or like a concept that I'm excited about, like just as likely to say yes to, somebody with, 100 followers on Twitch as I am to mention 20 if I'm excited about the game. Like, you know what I mean? And so like, I think that's really important for anybody to know about content creators. Is like, we want to do stuff with you. Don't be afraid to ask. Just, we might have to say no, and it sucks when we have to, but like more often than not, like I'm looking for cool shit to do, Another thing, and I can't remember what it was. I even touched my nose about it, and then I forgot again. God damn it.
Is that a trick you do?
That's my thing. Yeah, I put my finger on my nose so I like remember, and then I forgot. Anyway.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to it. We'll put it in the show notes.
Kate emailed me 2 weeks later to tell me what she remembered.
Yeah. I think let's talk about pitching. How are you for time? Are you good for a little bit longer?
I can go for probably about like 20-ish, 30-ish more minutes, but then I have to take my dog out because she's...
Oh, that's when I leave anyway, so we're good. I got to pick up my daughter from preschool.
Yay.
Yeah. She's a little 5. She's the one that's excited to go to school in the family. So she's like, yeah, I'll just yell across the house. There's like, Finley, are you ready? And she's like, yeah. Like she's just super jazzed about school. Yeah, exactly. My older son is 7. Is like the opposite. He's like, I hate school, and I'm just like, you're in first grade. You got a long way, kid. Like you better figure out how you need to enjoy school right now. This is a long road for you, buddy.
dude. That's right. I remember I hated first grade though. I didn't like school until I was in like 6th or 7th grade, and then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, all right, now I'm like interested. But I was like, this is a vibe. Anyway,
Yeah.
what were we going to talk about?
If I can remember. Yeah, I was going to talk about pitching and
Oh, sure.
what makes that most interesting for you. I know I'll put in my 2 cents after you, but like when you're looking at like pitches to appear or to do something with someone, what are you generally looking for, and what's gonna make it more interesting for you if you have the time and the energy to do it? I'll preface with that.
Yeah. So we're gonna say that this hypothetical pitch is already like there's okay. CatieOSaurus's guide to pitching a D&D game, or wait, hold on. CatieOSaurus's guide to pitching a TTRPG to anybody at all ever. Number one. And when dates, also like day of the week. Like, is it a Monday? Is it a Thursday? Is it every other Wednesday? Whatever. But also not just the start time, but like what is call time? How long is it gonna run? Right? With that, are there going to be breaks in between? Then, what system are you running? Is it going to be a homebrew? Are we doing a module? What are we doing? Who else have you asked? I don't need the cast list. I don't need like the firm, but I want to know kind of like the vibe of the people that you are asking, just to make sure, chill table with people I like. And then this is nice, not always required, but why me? Like, what is it about me and my content? Because one of the things that I have found, and this is true, is that when the pitch includes something about why they are interested in working with me, I am so much more likely to say yes to that than somebody who just goes, I'm playing this game, do you want to do it? Because it's the difference of commodity versus individual, right? Because a lot of times, again, they're just looking at the numbers. They just want a big name creator so they can get views on their stuff, which is fine, and that's totally valid, and that's part of it. That's part of the whole thing. Also, I'm a person who gets really excited about playing games, and I want to do a good job, and I want to have fun, and I want to tell a good story. And so if it's about me and my talent, I'm much more likely to say yes. I ranted about that for a really long time, but it's a sensitive subject.
No, that I felt like I was in your TikTok feed right there. Like,
yes,
you did the counting with the fingers and everything. That was amazing.
I didn't throw a fruit snack though. I'm sorry. And then honestly, like just safety tools, I appreciate knowing just right off the bat if like what safety tools are you using, how are you going to use them, and then like what are we playing on? Are we playing on Foundry? Are we playing on Roll20? Are we using like just whatever? Like how are we going to meet? What's going to like just as many details as possible. Because one of the things that I get really frustrated about, and it happens shocking amount, is people will email me and they say, hey, do you want to play a game? And they're like, oh, well, I was thinking like March or April. Great. I have 20 things already on my calendar plus 2 conventions for March and April. Like, what weekend are we talking about? Oh, well, we're not really sure yet. We wanted to make it on your schedule. Can you tell us the dates? No, because the next time I get an email back from you, those dates are going to have changed. You know what I mean? And so it's like as much information as you can, planning ahead, really thinking about the experience of the person reading the email, reading the pitch. And then honestly, I just want to know about the story. Like, what themes are we going to be exploring? Like, is this going to be like a cool collaborative thing? Is this going to be like a, very like dark and gritty campaign? Is it going to be funny? Is it jokes and gags? Like, what are we doing? That was really long. I'm sorry.
No,
I had a lot
no,
more
you're
opinions
good.
about that than I thought I did. I was like, I've got a couple, and I was like, no, I have very strong opinions.
No, you receive 150 emails a day from people like, hey, you want a D&D?
Yeah.
So of course you have opinions about that. No, that's perfect, because honestly, that's one of the things that I am going to be releasing a newsletter this month. Now that you mention it, it's super important. Learn how to pitch. And this is more of like this is something that I actually had the great fortune of interacting or having this one-on-one conversation with Jen Kretschmer very early on.
Hey, Jen Kretschmer is a really good pitch person.
Yes. Yeah, she is. I don't think that she has produced like Here's How to Pitch, but she's been working in TV for so long that she really understands pitches. So I modeled my first show pitches and presented those to Kobo Press based on what she told me to do. And like, of course, both shows got approved, which I attribute to like Jen's advice. It's like, that's great. When I pitch people now, I hope you're, here's the general, like,
Pleasantries.
Yeah, pleasantries. Like, hey, it was nice if you have a personal connection with the person, that's where that first sentence goes. Like, hey, it was nice to see you. It was nice to see you in this. I saw that you did this. This was really cool. Actually look at their content, actually consume it, and then, say something about the content, because that's nice to hear as a content creator, right? You're specifically talking about what they have done so that you acknowledge their value, right?
I don't want to interrupt, but I do just want to butt in very quickly. Content creators know when we know when you're not looking at our content and you're just like going through and being like, oh, this person has 1 million followers. I'll email them. Like, we know it's so obvious and it's so transparent. We know we're not stupid. Please continue. I get so heated about like, oh my God.
And then after that, then you go to the pitch. And the pitch is going to be a paragraph at most summarizing what it is that's happening. And then from there, if you have the business-oriented side of things, like pay, everything else goes underneath the pitch because the idea comes first. So you have hello, pleasantries. Then you have the nuts and bolts, the things that they should know as a performer and or a creator or professional that's showing up to your thing. What are they going to be paid? That should be probably like in there, right? And then
I just assume I'm not getting paid most of the time.
But you should pay CatieOSaurus. But anyway,
I know. I'm working on it.
You can help pay CatieOSaurus if you subscribe to her OnlyFans or her Patreon. Links will be in the description.
Oh, thanks.
But that being said, like that's generally how I assemble most pitches. Like when I was sending out for like the Vineyard and assembling like this massive, incredible team that I'm just blown away by, most of it was just like, hello, I really enjoyed your work in this. And I would actually make sure that I read that thing, the very bare minimum. And then from there, I would go into, this is what I'm thinking, my pitch. And then this is your role, potentially. If you are interested in it, this is the pay. These are the tentative dates. Those can change. That's fine. But, like, you need to give a ballpark. So,
yeah.
And people were just, like, blown away by, like, these basic project management structure things that, if you don't know them, that's fine. That's because you haven't been that in your life. And that's fine. But that's why you should subscribe to my newsletter, because I will detail how to do that.
I was gonna say, like, have like a downloadable checklist.
I will actually probably have the newsletter probably already published, and I will just link to it in the show notes here. For me, I had that conversation though, going back to one of our previous topics because we're just kind of all over the place. I love it, by the way. But
I'm following the train. It's great. The train, it's a little windy, but like I'm on it.
Yeah.
I'm aboard.
I had this conversation with Devin Nash. I don't know if you're familiar, but the consultant basically that runs a big ad agency, works with content creators and stuff, runs Novo. And he used to be like a League of Legends person. He owned a esports team. And so he now runs like a mastermind business class, which I actually recommend that you get into because it's actually really great knowledge. And I've had conversations with him where he's like torn apart my pitches and like I've rebuilt them based on like his advice. And of course they go in, go on to be successful because of like sort of this mentorship that he's providing to the community. And one of the things that he said to me sort of resonates with me when I was really struggling with how do I go from getting pinged all the time and like helping individual people do the thing? Because that's what I want to do. I'm an advocate for people making a living wage in tabletop, right? I want more people to make money. So of course I want to help people. But then he was like, yeah, but you're helping one person instead of making content that 1,000 people are going to see.
Yeah.
And that was the shift for me, like in why I had to build my platform. Because I was like, I'm spending hours on this person that I see the next month has not applied my advice at all.
Yeah.
And I've just wasted that. I'm not going to say I've wasted that time, but like that's what it feels like when I individually help people. And I'm just like, I can't do this for free anymore. If you're going to potentially not use my advice, you need to fucking pay me. Like,
it's so funny because it's sort of like the same thing, but it's like I've always explained it exactly backwards. Because so like I said, my background is in theater, and I was always like a theater kid growing up. I promise the story is going somewhere, by the way. But one of the things I really struggled with as a creator was when videos wouldn't do big numbers. Like when I like the hit video wouldn't pop up. And I started thinking about when I was in grad school, one of the things that we would do is we had this like touring company, and we would go around to different like schools in the area and perform. And I always make the joke that it's like, if you can perform Romeo and Juliet at 8:00 in the morning for a group of angry 7th graders, you can perform anything. But one of the things that I would always do is at these performances where there were a lot of like angry 7th graders at 8:00 in the morning is I would look for the one kid, because somewhere in every high school in America, in every junior high in America, there's like one awkward, weird theater kid who doesn't fit in and feels weird and alone and broken. I was that kid. I know. And what happens is you start doing the show and there's like some kid, and then you see the kid who just kind of leans forward a little bit, and then it's like more invested and more invested and more invested. I always said that you should do your show for that one kid who needs it, the one kid who's excited and passionate about it. And yeah, if you get other people on board, great, but like always do it for that one kid. And then I started making content, and then I would get mad, like you get really spoiled. You get really spoiled. And it's like I would get mad if my video didn't get 1 million views overnight. Like I would get mad. I'd be like, oh, my video only got 100,000 views. This is bullshit. And I get cranky. And then I started remembering that one kid. I started thinking about it. I was like, because so much of like what I do, I talk about ADHD, I talk about mental health, I talk about sex, I talk about relationships. And I was like, I don't care if 1 million people see this, because I'm not doing it for the 1 million people who might go, okay, that was great, cool, whatever. I'm doing it for the one person who sends me the email that says this video changed my life, or I really needed to hear this today, or like this advice really, really helped me. And that has been such like a vital part of my journey as a content creator, is letting go of that idea that like every tweet needs to be a hit tweet, every post needs to be a hit post. Sometimes it's just for that one person, but also you can't help one person at a time as efficiently as you can help 1 million. So there's like a balance to it. But I love that you said that, because it's like it's exactly the same thing but backwards.
Yeah, it's, two things can be true at the same time. Yeah, both things can be true. Yeah, in the same vein, I love it when people go and tell me like, hey, thanks for your advice. Like a few months ago, I'm now making part-time income. Yeah. And I'm now like making this much a month based on stuff that I have followed your advice on. And I'm just like, that's fucking wonderful. I love that for you. Please link more people. Please, spread the love. Please be an advocate, pay it forward. There's a great opportunity for a lot of people in a situation right now. Right now, as pro GMing is growing, this is the bull period. This is where people can actually start to make money, even if it's just part-time. I will caveat, full-time pro GMing is not for most people. Just like full-time content creation is not for most people.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what you do. I'm so intimidated by you. I don't know how you do it. I would die. I would last 2 days. I'd burst into flames. I would die. That's what would happen to me. Fine. I don't know how you do it. I respect the shit out of it. Holy shit.
You can't be intimidated by me, Katie, if we're going to keep working together.
Oh, no. I'm just going to keep being intimidated by you. Oh, my God. No. But yeah, but you're right. Content creation isn't either. Like, I don't know. Can I have a really, 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 really spicy hot take?
I love it when you do on this podcast. Okay. Go for it.
I think that one of the things I get frustrated about, I'm going to be kind about it because I think that's important, but I think a lot of times people look at content creation as this very like trivial thing. And then, when you ask to get paid, they go, how dare you? How dare you want to make money doing this thing that you've been doing for free? But what people don't see, like, I mean, you go on TikTok, you watch my 15-second bullshit video, or, butts, and you watch the minute video or whatever. But what you don't see, 3 years that I spent getting certified as a certified sex educator, I think at this point, I've cut back a little bit on checking every day, but the hundreds of Discord pings, the hundreds of emails, the hundreds of DMs on every single, like, it's not just TikTok, it's Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. Like, there's DMs for days, and it's community management, and it's the Discord, and it's Twitch streams, and it's the everything that goes into what makes making that 60-second video sustainable. That is the job of content creation. The picking up your phone and making the 1-minute video, that's the easiest part of my day. But it's the scrapping for brand deals and organizing, podcast advertising and figuring out partnerships and going to conventions and doing meet and greets and like all of this different stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's fun. I love it. It's amazing. It's the best job I've ever had. And I don't think I'm terrible at it. It's really a lot more admin work and a lot more sitting by yourself in your office crying because your fucking Adobe Audition has once again fucked your files. And literally yesterday I worked from I worked all morning, but then I had to record a voiceover for a gig that I got, which I was super excited about. 158 files. They all got corrupted. I had to go through and manually rename every single file re-upload them, sort them into the drive, get them into the correct scenes, get them in the correct thing. It took me until 9 p.m. Like from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. I sat at my computer. I was just crying, trying to get these files. And I was like, that's the glamorous life of a content creator, right? It's like, but then you go to like Comic-Con and it's like, oh my God, she's a famous voiceover artist. And like, you go, and you're like, yeah. And I sat at my computer and I cried for 5 hours so you could enjoy it for free on the internet. So it's like that's the part that I like to caution people is like it can seem glamorous, it can seem fun, and it is sometimes very glamorous and it is sometimes extremely fun. There's so much more work that goes into it than I think a lot of people understand. And I think if they did understand, I think they would be kinder. I think they would be more supportive. I think they would be more understanding and compassionate in terms of things like signing up for the Patreon or whatever it might be. But
honestly,
hitting those feels today.
No, I've loved this conversation so much, Katie. I honestly
fun. I like this is good. This is a good podcast.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's Katie certified.
I've decreed.
I think that especially like because Adobe, like I've had this frustration so many times. Sometimes it just corrupts your fucking video for no reason.
Oh my
God.
Like
just for no fucking reason. Just like you try like 4 or 5 times to render this fucking video and it's just like it just doesn't work.
But it's like, but people don't understand, like that's a week of work. Like if your YouTube video gets fucked, that's your views for the week. They're gone. They have disappeared. So now you have to figure something out. Do you make a new video? Do you half-ass something? Do you recycle some of your content? Oh, by the way, TikTok has decided that they're going to the links update. So if you make a giant list of like links for TikTok so you can reuse it on other platforms, they change those links every couple of months. So you have to go back and resort all of the videos, which I learned today when I was trying to make compilation videos for my YouTube channel. Like it's the amount of work that goes into this job. It's so fucking much. And I just feel like I don't get to talk about that part as much. So thank you for letting me talk about it.
That's what this podcast is for, Katie. I feel like a lot, and maybe I don't know too much about TikTok. Honestly, it's like the business side.
Don't.
It sounds awful. It sounds terrible. It sounds like the worst fucking platform.
It's the worst fucking thing. It's fine. I have so many horror stories. But I mean, like the really good example is like if you have the creator fund, if you live in the United States, because it's only, it's the number also changes. Like it's not like a fixed number, but it's like I think I've made total, and I'm not even supposed to talk about it. I'm like literally not supposed to talk about it. I could get in trouble, but I don't care. Leroy.
Do you need me to bleep you?
Nah, Leroy Jenkins. I don't care anymore. I give up. But I think all total for making 5 videos a day, every single day for almost 3 years for TikTok, I think I cumulatively made maybe $2,100, maybe something like that. And that's counting like videos that have gotten 7 million views, 8 million views. Like I think
that's absurd.
My top 5 videos, like the top one I think is like 20 some million, something like that. And I think I made $100 when my video hit. Like there's no money in TikTok. But TikTok also makes it extremely difficult to promote any platform where you're making money, like Twitch or a podcast, or God forbid you mention you have an OnlyFans. And so it's an extremely difficult platform. Especially if you're just starting out. Yeah, I have a 5.5-hour rant that I will treat you to sometime over tequila. To yell about how much I hate TikTok.
You say over tequila?
Over tequila. I get real.
Oh, okay. What kind of tequila do you like?
I don't actually like tequila. That's the thing. It just makes me more angry, and then I just get more mad about TikTok.
Oh, okay.
No, whiskey ginger is my drink of choice. If you're
okay. I owe you a drink at Gen Con.
Yeah. Oh my God, fuck. When is Gen Con? August? Okay. Is it always August?
I think it's always in August. I don't know. I went to my first Gen Con this past year, so I don't know shit.
It's my favorite. It's PAX Unplugged and Gen Con are my 2 favorite cons. It's just like the vibes are immaculate. I love it so much.
Yeah. I had so much fun this last time. Yeah, I went to. I didn't think that there was such a thing. And here's what fucking blew my mind. All right, and this is last thing because I know we both got to go. I did not know.
There you go.
I did not fucking realize that there was such a thing as TTRPG groupies. And then I went to Gen Con and I was just like, okay. That's...
Can I tell you one last story for the road?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Remember I was joking, nothing in theater school prepares you for whatever. You know what they don't fucking prepare you for? Somebody walking up to you cosplaying as your own fucking character. That shit, oh my god. That shit I weep every time it happens. It happens a weird amount now too, because it's like I've done enough TTRPGs where people have just started dressing up like my characters. Holy shit! Because it's like it's not just like the like, oh, that's cool, you like met a person and they're like, it's like, no, that person listened to your content enough, get into it enough to like decide and then build a whole fucking costume and then pack that costume to come to the convention and then put on that costume and walk around the convention and then come like I'm like the it's incredible. It's the most incredible fucking thing in the entire world. And like, no, there's nothing that prepares you for that moment at theater school. And I high five. Like, it's just like, oh my god. Yeah, TTRPG like groupies, totally a thing.
Yeah. Not to say that if you cosplay, you're a groupie. I meant something entirely different, but
wait, what did you mean? Wait, do I not know about a secret thing?
So we'll talk about that in a moment. But I am now asking everyone to cosplay Katie's character so that she can cry at Gen Con just profusely. No, I just meant like when you the after parties at Gen Con. And like, yeah. And then I was like in the bar and I was like, this is interesting. And I was seeing like, you know, the people who are on like big streams and stuff. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I had not expected that, but okay.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. But also, I don't know. I go to a lot of BDSM conventions for the other part of my job. And so like,
yeah,
I'm used to weird shit happening at hotel bars.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I actually just started to get into that kind of thing, and I discovered, of course, we're talking about this like right before we have to go, but okay. I discovered that I'm into Impact, and I had no idea prior to that. And that'll be, I guess, the next time. We'll talk about that the next time you go.
It'll be so good. It'll be good. We'll have this has been. I really feel like we've learned a lot about both dollars and dungeons. So we did a great job.
It's Dollars and Dragons, Katie.
Dollars and it says right there. I don't know. I was thinking about BDSM dungeons. I was making a hilarious joke about
after all of that
hilarious play on
saying
words.
That you need to make sure and watch the content before you. Okay, all right.
It was really good. I really biffed that. That was great. I was proud of that. I tried for like a really funny joke and then just like was like, oh, that didn't work.
No, it's okay. I love you, Katie.
Anyway, right. Thanks for listening to Dollars and Dragons. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Dollars and Dragons podcast. If you'd like to support me, and more importantly, my editor who does all of the heavy lifting here, then you can subscribe to patreon.com/isfriday. And that is going to go straight to my editor. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.